The Compliance Perspectives podcast is sponsored by Case IQ, a global provider of whistleblowing case management and compliance solutions. Learn more at caseiq.com. Welcome to the Compliance Perspectives podcast. I'm Adam Turteltaub from the Society of Corporate Compliance and Ethics in Healthcare Compliance Association. Joining us today from New Jersey is Kim Jablonski. Kim is Chief Compliance and Ethics Officer at Bristol Myers Squibb. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on in terms of the compliance landscape and leadership. Kim, thanks for taking time to talk with us. First, how, to your perspective, has the compliance landscape changed, and where do you think it's headed?
Hi, Adam. Thank you so much. I like you said, I get to lead an amazing global team of compliance and ethics professionals at Bristol Myers Squibb, and we are all dedicated to enabling our culture of integrity and supporting well-informed decisions that get more medicines to more patients faster. And a big part of our job is understanding exactly that. How's the compliance landscape changing? Where's it headed? How can we position ourselves to deliver on our mission? Some of those changes are very clear, relevant to nearly every industry. I'd say the most obvious one is expectations on our use of data have increased, and the technology available to identify insights from all those data have increased as well. Now, that said, I'm not sure all the expectations are always correct about how easy it is to access all the available data, especially in companies of our size. But we love a good challenge, and we're making some great progress on that front. But I'd say no matter how much data we can mine, still the most important part of our compliance program is our people, the leaders and the people throughout our organization who are making impactful decisions every day.
You make a great point that the leaders are so important. And, for them, it's about often translating this down to the workforce so that they can get through these times. How do you help the workforce navigate?
Yeah, that is another big challenge we're constantly facing. There is an increase in pressure that is specific to the pharmaceutical industry to speed up cycle times so that we can deliver new and life-changing medicines to patients even faster. I think in that environment, one of the most important things for us is that messages about acting with integrity, especially when the pressure is high, those messages can't come only from compliance professionals. It is critical that the business and the scientific leaders throughout the organization set clear expectations for their teams and regularly reinforce the need to make good decisions that are grounded in integrity. They also need to regularly track how their teams are doing and use that to inform their decisions. And we help with that. So compliance and ethics offers these business leaders data-driven insights on how their teams are doing and where their risk lies. And with that, they can make well-informed decisions whether, sometimes we'll take on more risk where it might help us to achieve our goals, or they can identify where they need to dial it back a bit because we're not where we want to be. And to be confident in doing that, it cannot be only the compliance team that's saying, do the right thing. Our employees need to deeply believe that it's part of our culture and that it's what leaders and teams expect as a critical part of our mission for patients.
So, you make a really good point that for a compliance program to work, it can't just be the compliance team. It's got to be others making the point. And that's really a question of what, in your mind, do you think good compliance looks like?
Yeah, we are definitely, I'll say, travelers on the journey, trying to define and refine that. I say two things. First, I think that truly great compliance program has to be seen and embraced as the responsibility of the entire company, not just the compliance and ethics team. We in C&E provide tools, we provide insights to help leaders make well-informed decisions, but we cannot be solely accountable for making sure people make the right choices. Our leaders across the organization need to set a very strong, very visible commitment to the highest standards of integrity for their teams. And then, as I said, they need to constantly track, with our help, of course, to make sure their teams are meeting those standards. And critically, good compliance also means being able to identify issues while they're still small and addressable so that we can fix them before they become big things. I'd say the increase in data and the improved technology we have now, it really helps with that. but it still comes down to the people and their willingness to use their voices. So our leaders to set those high expectations and our employees to speak up in the, say, hopefully rare situations where we go off track.
You mentioned leaders. What do you look for in your compliance leaders within your own team?
Yeah. So table stakes for our compliance leaders is that they're willing to seek a deep understanding of the business and our mission, and to be really flexible. Because if you are a compliance leader who thinks there's only one way to achieve a result and it's your way, you're probably going to have a hard time in this industry. It's just too complex for that. The very best compliance leaders are truly team players. They believe their success depends on the success of the team. And your default needs to be sharing information, sharing credit, and constantly looking for ways to build up those around you.
That's a great point about needing to keep building people up. So let's talk about one thing that might have helped build you in your career, which is, some sort of a learning experience you've had that helped ultimately shape you as a leader. Is there one you can cite?
Sure. I'd say one that stands out is the role that I had in helping BMS recover and return to our sites during the COVID-19 pandemic. And one of the amazing things we had during that time was a daily meeting with representation from every single business unit and function across the company. And their jobs were to help advise on big decisions that we were asking our leadership team to make about how to protect our people. Anyone who's ever worked in a complex matrix probably knows one of the hardest things is getting all the people that you need in a room at one time, whether it's real life or virtual. Here, we had the luxury of that being their job at the same time every single day. And every decision we recommended was so much better, from the broad input we were able to get in real time on how what we were doing would affect each of their teams. And the impact of that broad-based input really struck with me. I have this saying on a note card pinned above my desk at home that says, "We all have obstructed view seats." And I'm pretty sure we can all think about times where we've been absolutely convinced we know the right answer. And I still do this no matter how many times I've been taught this lesson. But that saying is humbling, and it reminds me that I always benefit from advice from a really diverse set of people like that group we had during the pandemic. It makes every single decision better.
That's a great metaphor of obstructed view seats, because there really is always something else that we're not seeing fully, and
Exactly.
sometimes that you can't see unless you're looking at it through somebody else's eyes. So let me ask one more question: is what should compliance teams be looking for to ensure that the culture is going in the right direction? To sort of go back to, you talked about culture earlier. What is it that we should be looking for?
Sure. I say we love what we're doing with advances in data and technology, and believe me, we're doing everything we possibly can to take advantage of that. There's a lot more to come. We're super excited about it. At the end of the day, though, what we really need is for our employees to truly believe that part of the privilege of getting to help patients is this deep responsibility to do right by them. And as a result of that, they know that it's never okay to cut corners, even when, and especially when, the pressure's high. So one last thing, while it's easy to say, do the right thing, we need to remember that it's not always easy to know what that is in our very complex world, especially for our teams on the front lines. So as compliance and ethics professionals, we need to be there to help guide and help our people, but also to give a lot of grace and understanding for how hard all of our jobs are. And most of all, I think we need to remember that we're really, really lucky to get to do what we do.
It's a great, rewarding profession, albeit a challenging one. And to your point about, giving grace to others, I think that goes back to the point you made about we all have an obstructed view, and that, we don't know what the others were seeing always when they made that decision that may or may not have been the right one. Well, Kim, thank you so much for sharing these insights with us today. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen. I'm Adam Turteltaub from SCCE and HCCA. I hope we're able to expand your compliance perspective.